We're live. Yay. Okay, so we're live and it's Joanna Crowder and I have Wade Hill. Tonight we are discussing a lot of topics actually, so we're just gonna jump right in. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Wade Hill. Joanna, you and I have been wanting to do this for quite some time, and our schedules have just been conflicting. But we came together on 7/7 at 7.
Yes, it was meant to be.
The unity of the seven, which we'll get a chance to get into that tonight. And both of us, it does appear we have gone down the same rabbit hole, along with a lot of people right now who are really starting to become awakened. In a time where the awakening is happening, right? In Aquarius,
Right.
water bearer pouring down the truth of water, which is truth and mysticism into the ground. So people are awakening to this new energy that's surrounding us. And it's really exciting times, and it's real scary times too for people who are just kind of waking up to what's going on in the world, right?
Right.
It's a vast power grab right now, I think, going on.
And I think that's the difference between those that have kind of been noticing that something's wrong with the world since they were young, so we're kind of like opening up our minds slowly to it versus those who have completely just gone from one end to the other all of a sudden. And that's the scary part, is not knowing what's going on all of a sudden,
This is the tribulation though, right? This is the moment where we're getting shaken to our core, because we know something's not right. It hasn't been right for some time. And now we're actually, the veil is coming down, if you will, and we're actually seeing things for what they really are. And I think people are really having that moment inside saying, is this what's really happening? And the answer is yes, it is. And so, yeah, that's a process, and people are, and it's going to be okay. That's what we have to realize, that you have to pull ourselves out of the gloom and doom and unify ourselves with what we see every day and the beauty that we see every day, which are things that we can control, some things that we can't control. And so we give love and we give the best of ourselves to every day to the things and the people that we come in contact with.
And better ourselves as much as possible, because it's on this journey, it becomes so difficult. And to try to discern information in a world full of information is very difficult for someone who's confused. So it's really about going within to get unconfused.
And because how do we do that? We come one with what resonates, that vibration, that energy, because when it makes sense, it feels good. It feels good. And when, just like anything else, when you're being bullshitted, you're being bullshitted, I mean, you can feel it, when you're getting used car salesman, if you will. And I didn't even realize I cussed on you. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're being real. I mean, that's part of the authenticity of being real, and it is what it is. I mean, we're not perfect. And a lot of people think that when you start awakening and you become very spiritual, that you have to be this perfect human being that doesn't have this dark side. And I think the part that we're missing in society is we're not doing enough shadow work. We're not looking at our dark side. We're not looking at things that we've suppressed that are stopping us from actually going closer to the light, because it's keeping us like, hey, look at me before you can move on. And people are stuck in the middle.
There's a lot of spiritual narcissism going on out there too, as well.
Spiritual ego.
That's a pitfall. That's a real pitfall sometimes, in finding this newly acquired peace and what you will, because you just want to shout it to the heavens instead of, like you said, doing the work, going inside within yourself to do the hard work, because enlightenment is not sunshine and rainbows. It is making the dark conscious within you.
It is looking, and I feel like the more that you go inwardly, the more you see and recognize the mirrors around you. And you become aware that you are responsible for your reality, and that everything you're thinking and feeling is causing the reality that you're in. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. And especially when some people's realities are so dark,
Yeah. And we are all mirrors of each other. We are all of one divine energy walking on this planet. We are full of one consciousness. Like if I were to take your temperature right now, I mean, 97, 98 degrees, somewhere in there, we have no idea where that energy comes from, but it is of divine nature.
Mm-hmm.
So that energy is of some source. It is from whatever you believe. If it's Allah, if it's Christ, if it's Buddha, whatever. It's like the parable of the elephant and the five blind men. They're all touching different parts of the elephant, right?
Mm-hmm.
One has the tail and says, it's like a rope. One has the tusk. It feels like a sword. One has the ear. It feels like a fan. And if in the allegorical side or metaphorical, if that is God, if the elephant is God, then they're all correct because they're all got their hands
exactly
on the same thing.
Right. Like languages, right? Like we have all these different languages. They all mean the same thing when you start interpreting and looking at what they mean, but they're all the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so, like, we talk about the Bible, and you and I were discussing this before we came on. And when you look at Galatians, I mean, it comes right out in Galatians and in his letter to the Galatians. When you look at it, says, and I've got it here, it says, "For it is written, Abraham had two sons." And as we know, Abraham is the father of all three major religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The one by he had two sons, one by the bondmaid, the other by the free woman. But he of the bondmaid was born of the flesh, but he of the free woman was of the promise. And it says, which things are an allegory. And so just to give it a little background, right? Abraham, the son of the bondwoman was Hagar, which was Ishmael. And he is an Arab, which the people of Islam see him as the descendant of their religion. Of course, Abraham is the father of Judaism. And then if you run the line of Isaac, it goes all the way down to Christ. And so it's telling you right there that these three divisions start, and it is an allegory. So at that point, from there, you can kind of run with this thing. And it's going to be full. It's that book is not secular history. It is a means. It's encoded.
It's in layers. Yes. Yeah. And so I think people get stuck on the top layer, the narrative, the story part, right? Instead of seeing the macrocosm to it, the microcosm, all the numerology in it, just all of the layers that these allegories portray such a deeper meaning and understanding that I really don't understand. This is a part that I don't understand because I guess I'm too open-minded that I can't get. Why not look at if someone says, yes, this is allegorical. Okay, what does allegorical mean? And they explain that to me. And I go, okay, let me look at it that way. What is wrong with looking at it that way? And then when it makes sense, what's wrong with letting go of what I thought it was and looking at something that makes sense? And the thing that people find is that when you start looking at this allegorically, it makes more sense than ever before. Sure. The crazier it is, the crazier the story, the deeper the meaning.
That's like, if we're going to talk, secular history, do we really believe that Adam and Eve, two English people in the Middle East, right?
Right.
I challenge you to go to the Middle East and find an Adam and an Eve hanging out there,
or a Mark or a John or a Matthew.
Or a John. and even so, do you believe there was a talking snake, or do you believe that was an allegorical representation of something more deep and meaningful? And that goes on into like when we get into the life of Christ. Right. And we start talking about he only spoke and taught in parables. Yes. So the meaning that you can take the story, and it's okay to take the story and understand the literal meaning, but know that that's not what it's there for. It's to crawl underneath and find what that is. A living Bible for one reason, because that Bible is a representation of your body, your mind, and your spirit, and how you can transcend that within your own self by going within. Right. Because in Luke, right, chapter 17, Jesus, when the Pharisees are saying, hey man, when is your kingdom of God coming here? And he says, it comes not through the eyes of observation, meaning you will not say it's here or it's there, for the kingdom of God is within you. And I think we've lost that. And I think, we've got to understand that the churches, I'm not here to bash the church. I think there's a lot of good that can come from having fellowship, but I think it's a lot more to spiritual growth that happens outside of that hour that must be done. And we're talking meditation. We're talking about going in. Mm-hmm. We're talking about physically changing how the mind works.
Renewal of the mind. Yes.
That's what repentance is. If you take and go into the Greek word of repentance, it means metanoia, which means the renewal of the mind. But, it's kind of like the institution of the church took it and made sin a virtue. And it's become a way to just scare people into showing up every Sunday and to pull
And
in your
pay.
time and paying your tithing, which we both know that tithing is metaphorical. It has nothing to do with paying money. And if you look in those words in red, that book is all about Christ saying, hey, man, the power's within you. You will do greater things than I can do and even more. And for some reason, which we know the reason, it's not taught that way.
Right.
Because that means the power's in the people.
And, it's so layered, like you said, like you can look at the positive of it, which is, the fellowship, the community. And for those who are lost and in the dark and need some type of hope and some type of belief, I think it's a stepping stone. But then, Hebrews 6:1, eventually you have to let go of the old doctrines and come to perfection. And that's when you do leave that institution or the doctrines behind and go inwardly and go farther up into, that journey, that ascension journey. Because if you stay there for too long, you don't grow, because they're not trying to teach you to grow. They're just trying to teach you to stay there. So yeah, there's the good and the bad from it, right?
We look at it, right? There's 38, almost 40,000 different sects of Christianity, and the only difference they have is their man-made rituals and dogmas,
right,
that are set in place. Or this is why they're going to hell as opposed to we're not.
And how many of them say that meditation opens your minds to devils, and it's the one thing that Jesus speaks about all the time in the Bible, is about going inwardly and
take no thought for your life.
Seek first the kingdom, and just the fact that, I know there's some interpretations to do when it comes to like the pineal and the single eye and people understanding that, and that's what it's hard to understand. But again, once looked at in a parable, once looked at in allegory, you start to see, okay, well, the single eye is obviously not one of these.
That's right. It's talked about through just about every major religion out there.
Right.
The single eye. The Vedas. They go in depth. The Kriya Yogis, they go in depth about the Kundalini energy, the serpent power within us that wraps and coiled. It's just, when you talk about the numbers, right? The number 7, the unity of the 7, which we're talking about the 7 chakras. In the book of the Bible, the number 7 is in the book of the Bible over 735 times. It's in 54 times in the book of Revelation, and it's talking about the unity of your energy centers. And the only way you bring unity to those, go ahead.
Revelation being at the top, I've always looked at it as Genesis at the bottom, and like within, and the Revelation is when you come to the top, when you basically ascend, when you have the marriage of the Lamb, when you have the community, right? And so Revelations 5:1, when it talks about the seals and the 7 seals that are sealed on the backside, is basically, now that you've become enlightened enough and you've had enough revelations, we can start talking deeper about the 7, whereas before within the Bible, they're kind of encoded still, but I feel like they're more revealed during Revelation.
I think it's, like even when Christ was being crucified on the cross between the 2 thieves, he receives 5 wounds. And the 5th wound, he goes quiet, right? It's the 5 wounds, it's the 5 senses. And then when he's punctured in the side, water comes out, the truth, and he ascends to be the Christ. And it's no different when you go into meditation, when you go into beta, wave, alpha, theta, into delta, your 5 senses die.
And you have a renewal of the mind.
From the carnal world, you have a renewed mind. And then, then you get into, I know you did a whole series on sexual energy, right? And that is our energy. That is our energy. That's what makes us creators. That's what sustains us. And that is the Kundalini. It is raising that energy through meditation, through breathing, because at the bottom of our, sacrum, which is the 5, again, 5 fused bones, the sacred bone, there's a sacral pump. And so as you breathe, you begin to harness this energy upwards. And that's why, it's beneficial through, to hold our seed, to hold our energy and not spew it upon the earth. I tell this to all my guys, right? Why?
And they're like, no way.
Well, you know, think about this. In a world where everything costs everything, you can go on any computer and get pornography for free.
Yeah.
Why? When they could charge for it, but why?
Right.
Because you're spilling your energy upon the earth.
Making you
And
less powerful, less able to manifest, less able to be an alchemist. Right.
For sure. For sure. There's a reason to the madness, for certain. Yeah.
Look at everything they're giving away for free. Why?
Yeah,
We
you
go
have to ask
further.
yourself. Yeah. You have to ask yourself why. Because if you're not asking yourself why, there are no freebies. There's always a cost associated with that. The things that are for free are suppressed. They should be for free or suppressed.
Yeah, I think that like it's easy to see once you see, you know, but it's so hidden, but yet in our faces before we wake up.
Well, it's hidden in plain sight, like
right.
Everything's hidden in plain sight.
How did it come across to you? Like, how did you wake up? What happened with you?
What happened with me? Honestly, I had an experience with entheogen, you know, with the mushroom first, and then of course I went down to South America and partook in ayahuasca, and it woke me like nothing else. And I wouldn't dare promote. I mean, that's a path anyone should take seriously and think about it for themselves. But for me, it was a game changer. It woke me up. It changed my life. It changed everything for me. I was a heavy drinker for years. And this November, I'll be 5 years sober. I haven't touched it.
Nice.
I've gotten off smokeless tobacco, which I tell everybody, smokeless tobacco is a beast. It really is.
That whole industry, even just like the gums and all this stuff, it's just the same thing.
It's so addictive.
Yeah.
So addictive. I never realized. But I went down the rabbit hole that way. And it just opened up a whole new world for me. And what I really found out as I started doing meditation, I realized you don't even have to have a psychedelic in order to have these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I had these experiences just doing pranayama, breathing, and through meditation.
I think a lot of people get confused with like when they feel like they're not doing it right. Right now I'm doing a 5-day meditation challenge in a group page. And, you know, you get the usual, I'm not doing it right type thing. And I feel like people need to know it's not about doing it right. It's if you do it consistently enough, eventually you will reach a point. It's just you have to, this is how I look at it. We have all these thoughts, all these emotions, they're down here. We keep suppressing them. We keep having more. They're piled on, they're piled on. It's like Tetris. But when you meditate, you're kind of letting some of that out. And you're letting it out, and so it's like the more you have suppressed, the more you try to meditate so that it can keep coming out until eventually these thoughts are not there. And that's how you get to that no thought theta state.
Yes. And I think you said it perfectly, because I think when you look at the fundamental Christian, going and doing these rituals, I remember being in that space, like, for example, watching people go up to the front of the altar, having this feeling. I just, I wanted to know. I didn't feel, I felt emotionally pulled to go do it, but it was just a raw emotion.
Right.
I think people can be inspired by a very inspirational speaker. And is that real, or are you just inspired in the moment by what somebody else said, or is it really a burning within you to go do it? And with meditation, like you said, it is come down. It is what you experience yourself. It's complete. You don't have. There is no right way. There is no wrong way. There is just doing it, and doing it consistently. I've been meditating now for over 6 years, and
it's a life changer.
And I still have moments where the monkey mind is just going crazy, and it takes a while to calm it down. But you have to sit with it and just be an observer. I know it's used like crazy, but it's true. You become an observer until the moment is you just bring yourself back to center. For me, I always, breathe in. I say, I'm here, out, I'm now. I'm here, I'm now. And that kind of just keeps me here. Or I'll pick out a sound. A lot of times I'll do it with a fan on, and I'll try to concentrate back on the fan to bring it back to center, because our mind doesn't want to wander to what we've got going on 5 minutes from now, tomorrow, what happened yesterday. But the true power is being in that present moment.
And just consistency. Yeah. I think that's when you do it daily, when you do it just as part of your everyday life, it's like sleeping. Like you just need to connect. And we're missing that as a whole.
I've probably been looked at as crazy, you name it, but I tell all my friends, I'm like, look, you have to just do it. We can talk about it all day. We can look at principles and read principles all day, but until we put them into action, and when we put time for ourselves to say, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes today, and I'm just going to sit for 3 minutes. And then the next day I'm going to sit for 4. And the next thing you know, as you keep building that up, you're sitting there, what you think is 20 minutes. And I've had moments where I'm sitting an hour.
Yeah. I love those moments. Like time just escapes and you're like, oh, that's amazing.
But, and it's completely achievable. We all can do it. It's just the discipline to do it. And there's nothing easy about self-discipline.
No.
Nothing. And that's why they say narrow the way and straight is the gate. And for,
few that find it. Mm-hmm.
Because if everyone can do it, they would be doing it. But it requires you to step out of the carnal world and to go within yourself.
And that's sacrificing those 5 senses, which is the wounds, which is basically,
And so I've got friends like, man, I'm off my phone, and then they'll go right down and pop down in front of Netflix, and they're right back. They're distracted all the time, and we forget. And I can speak from my own personal experience. Man, I didn't want to sit with myself because that meant I had to be with myself and be with these raw emotions that would just come up, anxiety, depression, you name it. It would come on you, and no one wants to sit in with it, but it's part of the process. In order to heal it, you have to feel it.
Yes. I mean, that's really what, how a lot of times you hear how when you go to counseling or therapy, like stuff just comes back up again and you have to all that stuff surfaces. I never really understood, I guess, because maybe some don't really do it fully. But I never understood until now how all that stuff surfaces because it needs to be looked at, because it needs that, that inner child needs to be heard, needs to be understood, and then move forward. But you can't move forward and you have this baggage of suppressed thoughts and emotions. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. But yeah, it's so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing with ayahuasca when I did ayahuasca. That was so powerful. You don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. And then the one thing about it literally you're going to be forced to deal with it. It's coming up.
One way or the other.
One way or the other, it's coming up, and you have to sit with it and deal with it. But they always have a saying, indigenous to what's coming is going. So once you feel it, you release it, and you feel a weight lifted. And again, it doesn't have to come through an ayahuasca experience or a mushroom experience. It can come through just meditated. But the thing is, you can't run from it to say, well, that felt uncomfortable and I'm going to go dive back into my phone or Netflix. I mean, there is healing that comes with the feeling of those repressed emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly changed my life for sure. I would not take it back for anything. My life is beautiful now.
Yeah.
And not to say that I go through my struggle just like everyone else, but there's a snap and an awareness to say, hey, it's okay to feel the emotion, but we can't stay there. We got to keep moving.
And you've noticed how you can just transmute your negative energy to positive a lot faster than before, right? Like you would sometimes just stay in a certain state for, I don't know about you, but for me, it would be days or weeks or whatever. But now I can just sit in meditation and then I'll be fine. It's let me meditate. Let me get this out.
The scenario around where you just want to run scenarios. What would I have done differently?
Yeah.
And instead you just got to say, well, just let it go, detach from it and move on. It's over with. What's important is right here and right now. What we're creating right here in the present.
How did astrology come into your world?
Through Bill, and through Santos, which, by the way, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I still got to get my copy. I have not had any time to read. We're playing music and doing stuff, man. It's just been busy, but it is on my list to read. Looks like you got some wonderful reviews. Santos loves it, right? I mean, he's out there promoting you.
He promoted it. I was sitting there watching. I'm just sitting there doing my thing, watching him like I normally do. And then he goes and gets up and grabs my book. And I was like, pause. Guys, come here. I'm like telling everybody, come here, look. Yeah, that was really cool. So
that's surreal, right?
Yeah.
But Santos was the big one that started bringing astrology around to say, wow, the sine wave, holy moly. I mean, it's all there. It's all there.
I mean, hours just per sign, just to link it together with theology and religion. And
it's all in the Bible.
Yeah.
Pleiades,
Orion.
I mean, the Mazzaroth. I mean, it's, the 12 disciples are the 12 signs.
I wonder how we can get this information to be a little bit easier to take in. I know it's easy for us.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I started listening to Santos, it was, oh wow.
Yeah.
You had to go back, but for whatever reason, you kept going back to it because you felt like, man, he's on to something, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the pieces start coming
into place.
And I think once you're going down and you become curious anyway, I think things start to unravel as your consciousness becomes higher and more aware of things.
Right. Like you have to be meditating in order to listen to Bill Donahue and Santos and all that, to be able to digest what is going on, because it takes, like you said, I would listen to the Know Thyself video that was like 8 hours long.
Oh yeah.
Over and over again and again, just to really process it, really try to understand it on deeper levels. Like you're watching a movie and you have to watch it over and over to really get it. And I think with all these people, you really have to slowly digest this information because it's so much.
And I think the universal laws really became big for me too. As above, so below, the law of correspondence. And you've got it right there in the Lord's Prayer, as on earth as it is in heaven. I mean, it's the law of correspondence, as above, so below. The 33 years in Christ, or the 33 years, or the 33 degrees in Freemasonry. They're the 33 vertebrae in your spine. In the mythos of Atlantis, Atlas holds the world up, which the last vertebrae is your atlas, which holds your head on your body. It's, you have the cherubim or the cerebrum. When you talk about King Solomon's temple, which it took 7 years to build, by the way, in complete silence, with no tools of iron or ore in the house while it was building. Yeah.
And the door was on the right side.
On the right side.
Yes.
Yeah.
The right hemisphere.
Through the middle and on to the third ventricle.
That's so cool. I love all this stuff. I mean, I literally daily listen to this stuff. Just
the 12 cranial nerves in the head. The Ida and the Pingala, the positive and negative polarity.
Electric and magnetism.
Yeah, because you're getting the electrical pulses from the brain, you're getting the magnetism from the heart. The first thing you do when you go down, they say you lose what? Consciousness. You lose your consciousness. And they bring you back by zapping you with electricity. Yes. And they have no reason how that engine's going to start. But they're going to zap your ass with some electricity. You are a machine. You are an electromagnetic machine. And by going into meditation, when you cycle the brain from 16 to 8 to 6 to 4 waves per minute, then you're changing your consciousness and you're becoming a lightning rod to receive. It's when you go into prayer and you're speaking, you're talking. I say when you go into prayer, you're telling God what you want to hear. When you go into meditation, you listen to what He has to tell you.
Exactly. See, I already knows what you want.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sit enough, to listen, and it's in that silence that you get all the answers.
Mm-hmm. And being just grateful every day. I do a journal every day. I'm like on volume 9 now. I've been journaling forever. But there's something pure in waking up every day before my feet ever touch the ground. How grateful I am that I can wiggle my toes and I can put them on the ground and I'm going to be able to go to work today and go run and do the things that I want to go do. There is power in just being grateful.
Or just focusing on that when you're not feeling, when you're not feeling good. That's one of the top things that you can do, is start feeling grateful or writing down your gratefulness just to raise your frequency. So yeah, number one on the list.
Because I know you probably love Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza
and Bruce Lipton.
And they're all telling you, to break down that old programming. You are programmed from the moment that, especially me coming up. I mean, you've been plopped in front of a television and you've watched social norms all of your life. And when you start breaking out of those social norms and start questioning, why do we do the things we do? It's like for me, so you asked the question, what kind of led me down the rabbit hole? I can remember saying, well, how did the Catholic Church become the Christ t-shirt bearers when they were the ones that helped put him to death?
Exactly.
And I said, how did that happen? And then you start understanding about the Council of Nicaea, and they pretty much put in our hands what we have today known as the Bible. And they have repressed so many different books.
Taking so many things out. Exactly.
So many things out. But yet what they kept in there was hidden. And they actually, there's quotes of the people that helped write that, Sir Francis Bacon and whatnot, and they talk about the joys that people will never be able to figure it out. It's so well hidden that they'll never really get what we're trying to say in here.
Of course, until the age of Aquarius,
which it's opened up for everyone.
Yes. Right. So now it's just seek and you shall find, but you got to seek.
And I don't want to come off saying, hey, people got to believe what they got to believe, and It's their own personal journey. All we can do is present information, and like I say, it'll either resonate or it won't. But I do believe the word is getting out. I think the church is declining. I mean, they've become concert halls. They don't even really talk about the word anymore much. It's become a place just to come and pay your money. And what are you really getting out of that? That's truly what you can walk out and go into the world and become a better person with. I think you can only find that from within. As you know, happiness is not a destination. It's always going to be empty if you're not seeking that within yourself. And that being, if you're not okay where you are now, you're never going to be okay when you have everything that you want.
Right. I remember going to church and I would be upset just because I would feel the hypocrisy. I feel like in people, like they were all ready to go. They didn't want to be there. They looked like they were just checking the box. And I don't know, I could just see right through it. And then, all these, one person being the messenger. And I'm like, why does there need to be a messenger when I can go straight to God myself? And all these questions that just led me to getting frustrated when I would go to church. So then when I started going to church as in within myself and reading the Bible, it opened up so much more desire to be closer to God just because I understood it better than anything anyone ever told me.
And I have no problem going to a service, but I guess what I'm getting at is that if that's the only fruit that you're getting out of it, then you're missing out. I mean, you're really missing out, because he says it. I mean, if you look at the words of Christ, he's telling you to go within, that it is within you, and that I am not special. He's saying I'm not anything more special than what you are. I am just here as a self-realized individual, knowing that the God power is within me as it is within all of you, in order you become connected with that. And it's not trying to be blasphemous. It's like energy I'm talking about. There's a divine energy that's operating this meat suit, just like it's operating yours and everyone else's on this planet. So what is that divine energy? And the only way we can kind of begin to understand that is to go within ourselves.
And then we start seeing how we're all the same. We're all one.
We're all one. We're mirrors of each other. When we're triggered by something or somebody else, better believe it's because there's something that you're recognizing in your own self and you don't even realize it. For sure. But just the story of Moses, right? When you start talking about there's no history of these, Hebrews fleeing into Israel. And Israel, as we know, is it wasn't a didn't even exist back then. It was the Israelites were the descendants of Jacob, and he became Israel when he, when he was wrestling with himself and he fell asleep, and the angel or himself broke himself at the hip, which was where his carnal urges were, and then I guess the mirror of himself or the angel within him named him Israel, which was the unification of the mind, body, and spirit.
Israel.
Is Isis, Ra, and El.
El.
Yes.
Which we all have the power of El within.
It's the Trinity within us.
Yeah.
Yes. It is the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, there's so much to it that's from so many different places and then just kind of refabricated.
Oh yeah, there's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun with the Bible. Those stories have been taken from ancient texts.
And even before that, it was written in the stars, like all this was,
stars.
He named the stars by name and, called them by the name, and they all tell the story of the ego and the spirit and how to remove the cardinal mind, how to remove or sacrifice the animal nature. So the sacrificing of animals also, stems from the misinterpretation of people believing you have to sacrifice an animal versus the animal nature within you. Yeah.
You can really get lost in, like you said. So what's a good way to kind of bring everyone forward and into this lightly? I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think first it's just looking into the gospel and look at those words and look at what Christ was saying. That he was. I feel like it's like Alan Watts says. We deified a man instead of his teachings.
Right. So it's become like the idol instead of
mm-hmm.
the way, because the way is not to idolize a man. The way is to internalize it. I mean, it is inside, but I mean, like, the way is to actually walk the walk, to actually do as he said. And that's to go within.
It's so interesting, like when you break down the story of Moses, right? It's kind of the story of us all. He is this person living in this world that's truly not his until he finds out that he is Hebrew. He finds out that all this stuff around him, all the carnal world, isn't what he thought it was, that there's something different. And once he knows the truth about himself, he can never go back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like once you know the truth of kind of, you understand that the material world is just the material world. And when you start to understand that this nature within us that's so much deeper and so much more love within us can be found within ourselves instead of finding it and seeking it in the outside world. And so he goes into the wilderness, and here he goes back to the seven again. He finds the seven sisters,
mm-hmm.
which when he finds unity with the seven, he's able to ascend to the mountaintop. And that's when Christ comes, or the God comes in and says, you go and tell them that I am the I am.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Just like Noah, when he's out there after the floods, he stays afloat for 7 months until he finds the mountaintop. There's the unification of the 7 energy centers. It's allegorically represented that when you go deep in meditation and you're able to open these 7 energy centers, you're able to ascend to a higher state of consciousness.
You're able to drop the walls. Yeah. It's like the walls of Jericho.
Yeah. The
around 7 times.
Yeah, 7 times. Joshua went around 7 times and the walls fell. Yeah. Absolutely.
And Jacob meeting God face to face, called the place Peniel.
Yeah.
Oh.
And in the courtyard, I've been to the courtyard of the Vatican, and I've seen the huge statue of the pine cone. And the pine cone, why? Because the pine cone, it illuminates from within and it blooms from within. It's all symbolism.
Right. And I think if we break down, if people want to look into it in sections, I think it helps that way. Like if they wanted to break down the section of the man and how the man relates, and then how the stars relate, and then the mystical words and meanings of the words.
Speaking of that, this is a great, and I don't know if you can see that, but it's It's the G.A. Gaskell's. It's kind of got a shine on it. It's the Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths. You probably got one, right?
I do, yeah. And I think I'm like, it's the same author.
Yeah. And so it just breaks down what words mean. And people want to know, of course, they're taking different versions of the Bible, right? Because the more versions you take, you get away from the ancient language. Even though it was the King James Version, but they used old language.
Mm-hmm.
And so those words meant something. Stone was always of mankind.
Right.
Brick was of the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's different water, truth, and emotion. There's all kinds of different meanings for words that you can place within the scriptures, which kind of give it life.
You know what? That's so funny. I just looked at that earlier. Oh, where is it? The fact that, it was in here somewhere. The fact that in one of these in the King James Version, here it is. Okay. Acts 17:22. In the NIV version, you have, so Paul, standing before the council, addressed them as follows: Men of Athens, I notice that you are very religious. But then in the KJV version, then Paul stood in the middle of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things you are too superstitious.
Uh-huh.
So you have superstitious and religious as the same thing, only in two different versions.
Right.
And I think that was super interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, it completely changes how you read that. Yeah, for sure. And they're subtle, but they're big changes.
Big ones, yeah.
Big ones. I mean, so like, for instance, like the Jewish, God, he doesn't have special people. All people are special. And so in Romans 2:28, chapter 2, verses 28 through 29, it says, For he is a Jew, which is one outwardly. It's outwardly. That's your key, right? Neither is that of the circumcision, which is outward of the flesh. So he's saying, don't take that literally.
Because it's an inward thing.
It's an inward thing. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and the circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not of the letter. So it's telling you right there that, the circumcision is of the heart, not of your parts.
But when you pass down,
one inwardly, who has gone deep in meditation, and it's found.
It's at the right side. Yeah, and it's funny, like now, because of our cultures and because of society and because it's passed down, you have now this culture or just society, and you can see that everywhere with this different beliefs. How you have circumcision because it's part of a belief. You have, when they do a bunch of tattoos and opening, the ears and everything because of their culture and religion. So everything stems from that. And then you have to break free from it eventually to reach that perfection and enlightenment.
Yeah. And also in Acts, 7:40, it says, the Most High dwelleth in temples not made with hands. Yeah. And the only temples on this earth that are not made with hands are here. I mean, it says it, and it's so subtle. But if you're not looking for it, and if you're looking literally into it, it'll go right by you.
That's what I said earlier today. I was doing a presentation on astrology and the Bible, and it's one of those. What did you just say? Which you said that it was subtle, and that if you don't see it,
it'll just fly right by you. I mean, it'll just, if you're not looking for it, if it's so literal, if you're reading it so literal, that the meaning will just bypass. It can be so in your face like that. The Most High dwelleth in temples not made with hands.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about that, I mean, you can come to the conclusion pretty easy what they're saying there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was basically going over how the dark sayings, the allegories, the parables, they're all there to confuse the ones that are without, and not really to understand those that are within. And that's where it can get really confusing.
And dark sayings, right? I mean, that sounds, when you just say dark sayings it sounds like, oh, is that something evil? Is that
Right.
bad? And dark means it's just hidden. It's out of the light. They're figures of speech. You know, Bill Donahue talks about this a lot, right? You're just green with envy. You're going to go shoot the bull. You know, we're not picking up a rifle to go shoot a bull.
Mm-hmm.
You're not green with envy.
Mm-hmm.
Not bending anyone's ear. You know, we're having a conversation. And that's the same language as the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same. It's allegorical. It's metaphorical. I mean, you can read it just like I can just say that, go shoot the bull, but you know that's not what it means.
Yeah.
And when you start putting that together with that scripture of the Bible, then it starts opening up a whole new world.
And those are those rabbit holes that we're all going in
And
so many directions.
And there's tons of books out there. There's Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. I mean, there's so many different books out there that discuss this in depth. And again, you have to use discernment. It has to be, because ultimately, it's what do these things open up within you?
Truth, understanding.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's ultimately, you know, we have to come to our own. We're so busy. I can remember, like I said, being in the pews, wanting to have the experience that someone else is having. It is almost keeping up with the Joneses in the church pew in many ways. It was for me, and just speaking for me. And what I find out is, in the same instance as it was that, it was being, you know, it's a personal relationship as well, which it totally is.
Mm-hmm.
Because that personal relationship is going to develop based on the time that you spent in meditation and going in silence and opening yourself up to deprogram what has been put before you, because you don't know what you don't know. Like for me, I started going to church. I started asking myself, I asked my mom and dad, how did you get involved in church? Well, it's just what we did when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
I got in the car and we went. Same for me. I got in the car and I went.
Yeah,
And
we're programmed since we come in. We didn't even choose our name. So we don't choose anything really until later. And then we have to go, okay, what is mine and what is somebody else's?
Mm-hmm. And then you start, you know, and when you start to venture out, and you learn that we're all talking about the same thing. They're different stories. Again, it's the parable of the elephant and the blind man. We're all talking about the same energy, just in a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the deities, all of the godheads of these religions all around the world have the same story. They were all crucified. They were all born on Christmas. They all had, you know,
Virgin Mary. I mean, a Virgin Mother.
Yeah, Virgin Mother. Yeah.
Just virgin consciousness.
Yeah. And they're all the same. And Christianity, for that matter, is a very young religion in the game, really. When you go look at the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita, then the sutras, it's very young. And so, I mean, these stories, you know, like I said, you know, people, it really matters not whether you believe that's history and it took place or not.
Right. It's
because
just a matter of
nothing for you.
Right. It's what it does for you now, and what it's doing and how to do it. Because it tells you exactly what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, it's breaking down the parable to say, what is he trying to tell me here?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at, you know, the numbers, the numerology, right? The numbers of the beast and the number of the 144,000 that'll be saved. It's the same. Mm-hmm. It's polarity. It's the
yin and the yang.
Free will is what it is, because the 666 in numerology, if you add those numbers together, it's 18. You can't have a double digit number in numerology, so you have to take the 1 plus the 8 is 9. The same thing in 144,000. If you take the 1 plus the 4 plus the 4 and add up the zeros, you get 9. And so 9 is the number of consciousness and human consciousness.
And that's when you recognize, okay, they're talking about something spiritual here.
It's spiritual. So you have a choice. Some will pray to the light. Some will always pray to the darkness.
It's the intention and how you use it, which I feel like a lot of times, like, people get confused with, you know, the Eye of Horus and like the Illuminati and all that stuff. And it's like, well, there's dark forces and there's light
Mhm.
forces. Like, I am not talking about the dark forces here.
Right. And they're all using the same energy. I mean,
It's light and dark. It's light. It's electric and magnetism. It's the same
yes,
thing. Yeah.
it's hot, cold. I mean, it's all the same thing. Hot and cold are temperatures. They're just opposite ends of the spectrum,
Right.
up and down, left, right, black, white. It's when you start learning the universal laws in there, and how it works with law of attraction and everything else.
It's just amazing. It's something that everybody needs to look into and really just
It's not just
explore, like
not just the
deep
law of
within.
attraction, though. It's different laws all happening at one time with vibration and correspondence. And and it takes time. The law of momentum. It takes time for those things to build, and good practices.
Yes.
And making time for yourself in meditation and trying to understand the deeper meanings instead of just having it kind of spoon fed to you.
Imagine if everybody was doing this, like it'd be heaven on earth, really, because everybody would be taking the time to deal with all of this. And when you deal with all of this and try to be the best version of yourself, you don't have time for everything else. You don't have,
I think there is
I have to do 2.5 bottles of water. I don't even have time, like between going to the bathroom and drinking water and meditating and all this to like deal with drama,
And you want to detach yourself from that.
Yeah.
We are what we eat. I can remember I used to want to watch all these horror movies back in the day. I mean, I just was. And I realized that all that stuff that we feed ourselves goes into the subconscious.
Yeah.
It absolutely goes into the subconscious. And it affects our anxiety. It affects all that stuff. You name it. And if you put it in, you get what you put out.
Right. So you got to take responsibility.
And you just, you do get to a point where you want to separate yourself from that drama and from that. I just don't even, I can't even stomach the news anymore. It's not news. It's not. And you can't even get wrapped up in that. Like I said, you can sit there in front of that stuff and it will cause you all kinds of mental distress. And so a lot of people are being mentally distressed by what they're seeing on the news every day.
Yeah.
Instead of just separating themselves, instead of going out in the world and making it the best that you can make it, because that's where it starts. Like you said, if we all start from there, then the world would be a lot better place, because we can only affect what we can affect. And you can't get wrapped up in trying to change things that you'll never change. Things will change, and they must. And in order for things to change, a lot of times things have to fall in order for them to be rebuilt. And we just gotta, stay positive that things are going to work in the right direction.
Absolutely. For those that are watching, do you guys have any questions? Because I know there's a few people watching. Because we've gone from
We've been all over the place.
All over the place. So really, is there something we haven't touched on that maybe you want a clear understanding about, or just some more clarity? Because that would be ideal. If not, that's fine too.
So you start talking about, what are your thoughts on the chrism and that energy? That all kind of goes into the Kundalini. So with David, right? When David is fighting Goliath, that's nothing more than a metaphor for you overcoming your egotistical self. When he goes and defeats Goliath, he grabs again the 5 smooth stones and he hits them here, right between the eye, in his single eye. And he overcomes. By overcoming his 5 senses, he's able to overcome that which has been the main obstacle in his life. He overcomes. It's that, the stories are full of that stuff. The 2 loaves of bread or the 2 fish and the 5 loaves, the 7.
Or the 9, because cast
9.
your net to the right side and you'll find 153 fish.
Yeah, and there's 9 right there. Cast it to the right.
Spiritual story.
Yeah, and the Bible is just full of that stuff. And when you start, like you said, when you start seeing that, you can't unsee it. And Numbers, I don't know, the numbers will just start popping into your awareness like crazy.
To where you can communicate with them. I communicate with them like I know what
Trip
they're saying
one,
now.
quad ones, trip twos, trip threes, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, I would love to have like another like a section 2 of this talk just because it's so broad and it's so much information.
It's a lot.
Um yeah,
Yeah.
so like if anyone watching even the replay has questions, we can definitely talk about that maybe some like on the next one if you want to do a next one.
Oh, for sure.
That would be really cool. You know, you could probably just come into the Love Your Life tribe one of these weeks and be one of our guests and talk about all this with us. That would be great.
Sometimes I got to stay focused. I get bouncing all over the place sometimes. You know, you get going on one thing and it is exciting. It is, you know, it's amazing how something that has been around so long how it is a living Bible. It really is a living document that can mean so many different things once you start to peel back the layers of the onion.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love peeling them daily and then helping others learn what it is that they're peeling, because a lot of times they're peeling an onion, but they don't really realize what they're doing or what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But just got to, you know, that if they're, at least if they're peeling, like we're all learning new things every day. And, you know, to plant seeds, if nothing else, for interest. Because again, I'm not here to try to convince anyone of anything. It has to be their own personal journey. But you come to find out that as you're starting to open yourself up to these new ideas and new concepts, that, man, like I said, it really starts to resonate.
It's magical. And then you want to share it with everybody because it feels so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. So yeah. Thank you so much. I know it's like been almost an hour, so I don't want to make it go over.
Okay.
But I think that this is huge information that we've been learning, but now it's time that we're teaching or, you know, sharing it, because it does take a long time to kind of download all this information, research it, you know, learn it, experience it, whatever, for us to really get it to a point where we can share. Because I know that for years, many, many years of learning all this, I wanted to share so bad what I was learning, but I wasn't at a point where I knew it, but I couldn't say it.
Yeah. And,
you know?
and you may not be coming at it from a loving place.
Right. Because I was like, no, there's my ego's in the way. I can tell. So I would get frustrated with myself. And now that it's been subsided a little bit, you know, I'm like, okay, like I'm sharing for different reasons now. So that's what's important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. For joining me on 7/7 at 7. It was magical because I think it was meant to be. The right people are here and the right people will hear this.
There's no coincidences, right? If you're here listening and you watch it, you're here for a reason. That's for sure.
Yeah. And we're here to answer any questions along the way. So feel free.
Thank you for sharing your love and knowledge as well. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Guys, again, if you have questions, leave it on the comments and we'll get back to you on that. And thank you so much for watching. Peace.